he reached the edge of the pool. The water glowing and inviting, a deep breath, then a leap. Cannonballing into the forbidden waters, the cool shock of the liquid engulfed him. Stealing his breath for a moment, above, the huntress paused, watching. A hiss of frustration escaping her lips, the human sank beneath the surface. Hope and fear mingling as the waters closed around him, the forest held its breath, waiting. The huntress's glowing eyes scanned the water, knowing this was only the beginning. The sacred death pool had accepted him, but the danger was far from over. Every ripple could reveal a new threat. Every shadow a hidden predator, and the human, submerged in the forbidden waters, realized survival was only the first step. The human plunged into the forbidden waters. The cold shock stealing his breath, he kicked violently, trying to reach the deeper part of the sacred death pool. The water shimmered strangely, almost alive, reflecting light in ways that made it difficult to see. He could feel currents tugging at him, pulling him deeper, testing his strength and resolve. Above, the alien huntress crouched at the edge. Her eyes glowing with fury, she hissed softly, calculating her next move. Her prey was clever, but the forbidden waters were her domain. She could wait, watch, and strike at the perfect moment. Every movement beneath the water was monitored. Every attempt to escape noted. The human struggled against the pull, his arms aching, lungs burning. Strange shapes darted around him, shadows twisting in the water. Some were small creatures, harmless, but others moved too fast to identify. Fear surged through him as he realized the forest and waters were alive, and that survival depended on far more than speed or strength. He spotted a glowing cavern beneath the pool. A hollow in the rock walls. He kicked harder, swimming toward it. Hoping it offered safety, the currents resisted, almost as if the waters themselves wanted to keep him trapped. A shadow moved above, cutting through the light the huntress was circling. Calculating, waiting, the human reached the cavern entrance. Barely squeezing inside, water surged around him, dragging him against jagged rocks. He coughed, gagged, and forced himself to stay calm. Inside, the cavern glowed faintly, bioluminescent plants lining the walls. It was eerie, beautiful, and dangerous all at once. The huntress dropped into the water. Moving with unnatural grace, she did not make a sound, but the ripples betrayed her. Her eyes glowed brighter underwater. Her movements predatory, precise. The human tried to hide among the rocks. Holding his breath, every heartbeat echoed in his chest. Every second stretched into an eternity. Suddenly, the huntress lunged, claws cutting through the water. The human twisted, narrowly avoiding her strike. A shard of jagged rock grazed his shoulder. Sending pain through his body, he kicked hard, pushing himself toward a narrow tunnel at the back of the cavern. It was his only escape, but the passage was tight and unknown. As he swam through the tunnel, the water grew colder, darker. Strange currents spun him around, making it difficult to see or breathe. Small glowing creatures brushed against his skin. Harmless but unsettling, he felt as though the water was testing him, measuring his resolve, and he knew the huntress would not give up. Not while he still moved. The tunnel opened into a massive underwater chamber. The sacred death pool stretched above, glowing ominously. Bubbles escaped from the human's mouth as he surfaced briefly. Gasping, the huntress hovered above, striking again, her movements faster. More aggressive, he ducked under a massive rock, narrowly avoiding her claws. The water pulsed with strange energy, reacting to their presence. The human realized the pool was not just water, it was alive, aware, and powerful. Every movement sent ripples through the currents, signaling both predator and prey. The huntress hissed in frustration, realizing that this was no ordinary hunt. Suddenly, a strong current swept through the chamber, pushing the human toward a glowing exit. He grabbed onto a rock ledge, holding on with all his strength. The huntress followed, circling above, her eyes never leaving him. The tension was unbearable. Every second, a life or death gamble. The human's mind raced, searching for a plan. Any plan that could save him. He spotted a narrow spout at the far end of the chamber. It led upward, toward the surface, toward safety. The huntress moved faster, sensing he had discovered an escape. The human took a deep breath and pushed forward. Kicking violently, water slammed against him, rocks scraping his arms, lungs burning with every stroke. The huntress lunged one last time, her claws grazing his leg. Pain shot through him, but he did not stop. He reached the spout and surged upward, breaking through the surface. Gasping for air, he emerged into the sunlight. Dripping and exhausted, the forest seemed calm above. But he knew the huntress was still near. He looked round, catching sight of her on a rock above the pool. Her glowing eyes fixed on him, silent, calculating, furious. The human realized survival meant more than escaping the pool. It meant staying one step ahead, outthinking a predator who never missed. And the huntress had not finished her game yet. Not by a long shot. He pulled himself out of the water. Dripping and shivering, the sacred death pool glimmered behind him. A warning and a promise. The huntress watched, waiting for his next move. The forest seemed to whisper secrets, guiding him forward. And the human knew that the next challenge would be far more dangerous than the last. The human stumbled out of the sacred death pool, water dripping from his clothes. Sunlight fell unevenly through the dense canopy, illuminating twisted roots and glowing moss. He shivered, not just from the cold, but from the realization that the huntress was still watching. Every rustle of leaves, every snapping twig could signal her approach. The forest seemed alive, almost aware of his presence, moving in subtle ways to test him. High above, the huntress perched silently on a massive tree branch, her eyes glowing faintly, scanning every shadow, every motion. She had tracked humans before, but this one was different. He was clever, unpredictable, and stubborn, making the hunt far more thrilling. Patience was her weapon, and she used it masterfully. Letting him think he was alone, the human moved cautiously, stepping over jagged roots and slippery moss. Every step was measured, yet unpredictable, hoping to avoid traps or ambushes. The forest seemed to close in around him. Trees, leaning as if whispering secrets, he heard strange cries echoing in the distance. The calls of unknown creatures. Some were harmless. Others moved too quickly to be seen clearly. Suddenly, a shadow flickered among the trees. Barely visible, the human froze. His heart pounding, muscles tense. A small, glowing creature darted across the path. Harmless but disorienting, he stumbled. Catching himself just in time, the huntress hissed softly from above. Amused by his fear, he continued, following a narrow path lined with glowing vines. The forest floor shifted beneath his feet, roots rising as if trying to trip him. A sudden rush of wind carried strange whispers, words he could not understand. It was as though the forest itself was warning him. Every instinct screamed at him to stay alert, to move carefully. The huntress dropped silently from a branch, landing lightly behind a thick tree. She moved closer, her glowing eyes fixed on him. The human sensed movement but could not pinpoint her. His pulse quickened, fear and adrenaline mixing in a dangerous cocktail. Every step forward became a gamble, each breath heavy with anticipation. Suddenly, the forest opened into a small clearing. Glowing flowers and strange fungi covered the ground. Casting eerie light, the human paused, sensing that danger lurked in every shadow. The huntress moved faster, closing the distance silently. Her presence felt, not seen, like a predator in perfect camouflage. The human noticed a narrow bridge over a rushing stream ahead. It was his only path forward, though the wood looked fragile and worn. He stepped carefully, testing each plank, muscles tense. A snap echoed as one plank cracked beneath him. He leaped forward just in time, heart racing. Landing safely on the other side, the huntress leapt from a nearby tree. Claws barely missing his back, he rolled to the side, scrambling for cover behind a massive boulder. Branches whipped against his face as he glanced back. Her glowing eyes reflected in the shadows, calculating and relentless. Every instinct told him that she would never give up, never stop. The human spotted a series of narrow paths branching off the main trail. He chose one, hoping it would lead to safety or at least delay her. The forest grew darker here, shadows thick and oppressive. Strange sounds echoed from unseen depths, whispers, growls, and hissing. He could feel eyes on him from every direction. Though he could see nothing, suddenly roots shot up from the ground. Trying to entangle his legs, he kicked violently. Freeing himself just in time, the huntress hissed above, seeing his struggle but letting him survive for now. She wanted the chase, the thrill of seeing him fight for every step. The human realized the forest itself had become a battlefield. Alive and dangerous, he continued, dodging snapping branches and glowing vines. Every step brought him closer to the sacred death pool's far edge. He glimpsed strange statues carved into massive stones, alien in design. Some seemed to watch him. Some whispered in unearthly voices. The forest was no longer just a forest. It was alive, sentient, and testing him. The huntress dropped silently onto a tree trunk ahead. Blocking his path, the human froze, realizing he was cornered, trapped between the alive forest and the alien predator, H. The human walked cautiously through the dense forest, unaware that he had crossed into alien territory. Every step he took was careful, but unaware of the danger that shadowed him. The forest was alive with strange sounds, distant calls, and movements among the trees. Some creatures were small and harmless, others moved too quickly to be identified. The human felt a chill, not from the cold, but from the uneasy feeling that someone was watching him high above. The alien huntress observed silently from the branches of a massive tree. Her eyes glowed faintly, scanning the human's every move. She had tracked many prey before, but this one was different. There was something unpredictable about him, something that made her patience sharper. The huntress moved like a shadow, barely making a sound. Blending perfectly with the forest around her, the human paused to catch his breath. Noticing strange markings on the trees, he bent closer to examine them. Sensing they were not natural, suddenly he felt movement in his peripheral vision, and his heart skipped a beat. A shadow darted behind a tree. Gone before he could react, he shook his head, thinking it was his imagination, but the feeling of being watched did not leave him. the huntress crouched silently, studying him. She could see his nervous movements, the way he scanned the forest. She knew he would not survive long without making a mistake. Every instinct told her that the human was clever, but not clever enough to evade her for long. Her pulse quickened slightly, not from fear, but from the thrill of the hunt. The human moved forward again. Stepping over roots and fallen branches, he noticed the air growing warmer, heavier, and smelled something strange. Almost metallic, the forest seemed to change. The path narrowing, trees twisting unnaturally. He paused, unsure if he should continue or turn back. Something deep inside told him to keep moving, though he did not know why. Above him, the huntress adjusted her position, moving silently from branch to branch, her eyes never leaving the human, her focus absolute. She thought about the sacred death pool, a place forbidden to most, and she knew that he was heading straight toward it, unknowingly walking into danger. The thrill of the hunt mixed with a strange curiosity about why this human was so bold. The human tripped over a root and fell hard. Bruising his shoulder, he grunted, scrambling to get up. Unaware that the fall had alerted the huntress, she moved closer, silently. Like a whisper on the wind, every step was calculated, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Her sharp eyes watched him struggle, noting every detail, every weakness. The human finally reached a small clearing, the sunlight barely reaching the forest floor. He paused to drink from a stream, the water cold and refreshing. He did not know that this pause was exactly what the huntress wanted. She crouched high above, ready to descend if he made a wrong move. The tension in the forest was thick, the air heavy with anticipation. Suddenly, a rustle of leaves made him turn quickly. His heart pounded, muscles tense, ready to run. But there was nothing there, only the shifting shadows and the distant calls of strange creatures. The huntress allowed herself a small smile, knowing that fear had begun to take root. She had him right where she wanted, and the hunt was only beginning. The human continued, unaware of the danger. The forest seemed to whisper warnings, the leaves trembling in the wind. He could sense something watching him, a presence he could not see. Every step he took brought him closer to the sacred death pool, a place whispered about in legends. Forbidden, deadly, and mysterious, high above. The huntress adjusted her position once more, her body tense, ready to pounce at the slightest mistake. She admired the human's bravery, though it was reckless. Most would have turned back long before this, but he kept moving, and that made the hunt far more thrilling. The human paused again, noticing strange glowing plants along the path. They cast a faint light on the forest floor, almost like tiny lanterns. He reached out to touch one, curious about its strange texture and glow. The huntress watched silently, her focus unwavering. She knew that one wrong move, one hesitation, and the human could be caught. The forest seemed to grow quieter. Almost holding its breath, the human took a deep breath, sensing the tension without understanding why. He felt an odd mixture of fear and excitement. The sacred death pool was near, though he did not yet know its dangers, and the huntress, silent and deadly, was waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The human moved forward again, unaware that the hunt had already begun. The forest seemed alive, the shadows shifting with a strange rhythm. The huntress tracked his every movement, calculating, predicting. Every step brought him closer to the pool and closer to danger. The forest watched silently as predator and prey began their deadly dance. The The human moved cautiously through the forest, each step careful but uncertain. The strange glow from the plants lit a narrow path, guiding him toward the sacred death pool. He did not know what awaited him, but an instinct deep inside urged him forward. The air grew heavier, thick with tension, as if the forest itself was warning him. High above, the alien huntress watched silently, her eyes glinting with predatory focus. Every movement the human made was studied, predicted, analyzed. She was patient, waiting for the moment when he would make a mistake. Every shadow, every rustle of leaves, she used to her advantage. The forest and huntress moved as one, each anticipating the human's next step. Suddenly, the human heard a snapping twig behind him. He spun around, heart racing, but saw nothing. Shadows twisted among the trees. Moving faster than he could track, he stepped back cautiously, senses heightened, every nerve on edge. The feeling of being hunted pressed down on him, heavy and unrelenting. The huntress shifted silently from one branch to another, her long limbs allowing her to glide through the canopy. She observed the human struggle with unseen obstacles, a hidden root, a low-hanging branch, small things that could cause him to stumble. Her patience was a weapon, and she used it skillfully, waiting for him to tire. The human spotted a small stream ahead, its waters glowing faintly in the dim forest light. He hurried toward it, hoping for safety or at least a moment to catch his breath. But the forest seemed to twist around him, pathways narrowing and merging. It was as if the trees themselves were conspiring, guiding him toward the sacred death pool. Every step became more dangerous, the air thick with tension and uncertainty. Suddenly, movement caught his eye. A shimmer in the shadows. He froze, muscles tense, watching as a figure emerged, almost invisible. It was the huntress, stepping lightly onto the forest floor, her presence sudden and terrifying. The human's heart pounded as he realized he had been seen. There was no time to think, only to act. He grabbed a fallen branch, swinging it defensively. The huntress leapt forward, moving faster than his eyes could follow. He ducked just in time, feeling the rush of air as her claws cut through the space he had been standing. She hissed softly, a sound that made the forest around them shiver. Every instinct screamed at him to run, but the sacred death pool was still ahead. He bolted, crashing through the underbrush. Roots caught his feet, vines pulled at his arms. Every step was a struggle, but fear drove him onward. The huntress followed silently, deadly and precise. She did not need to rush. Patience was her greatest weapon, and he was walking into her trap. The human stumbled into a narrow gorge, the walls rising steeply on either side. The glow of the sacred death pool shimmered in the distance, almost taunting him. He glanced back, but saw no sign of the huntress. A brief moment of relief surged through him, but it was fleeting. The air around him was too quiet, too still, and he knew danger lurked. A low growl echoed from the shadows, vibrating through the canyon walls. He spun just in time to see the huntress drop silently behind him. Her eyes glowed faintly, reflecting the shimmering waters ahead. The human swung his branch, but she ducked easily, moving like liquid. Fear surged through him as he realized brute force alone would not save him. The huntress circled him, testing, waiting, her every movement precise. She wanted him alive for now, to prolong the thrill, to watch him make mistakes. The human's chest heaved as he searched desperately for escape. Every glance at the glowing waters of the sacred death pool promised safety. but reaching it would require outsmarting a predator who had tracked humans before. Suddenly, the huntress leaped, claws extended. Aiming to force him toward the pool, the human dodged, tumbling into a thick patch of vines. He grabbed a small rock, hurling it blindly, and it struck a tree with a loud crack. The noise startled the huntress, giving him just enough time to scramble to his feet. His eyes caught the shimmering edge of the sacred death pool ahead. Glinting like a forbidden treasure, the forest seemed to respond, branches twisting and roots shifting to form a narrow path. The human sprinted, lungs burning, heart pounding. The huntress followed, a silent shadow in relentless pursuit. Every step closer to the pool brought him nearer to salvation, and nearer to an unknown danger that could end everything in a single moment. Branches whipped his face as he scrambled to his feet. The trap's roots lashed at him, pulling at his legs, slowing him down. He kicked and pushed violently, freeing himself just in time. He spotted a series of alien statues lining the ravine. Eyes carved into stone seemed to follow him, glowing faintly in the dim light. He noticed one statue's eyes were brighter, pulsing as if alive. The forest whispered around him, rustling leaves warning him of danger. Every instinct told him to move carefully, to think, to survive. The huntress dropped into the ravine, moving with deadly grace, water and debris splashing around her. She moved like a shadow in motion. The human glanced at the rushing water below, realizing a fall could mean instant death. He sprinted toward a narrow ledge along the ravine's edge, clinging to jagged rocks, his hands bleeding from the forest's traps. Suddenly, a vine shot out from above, wrapping around his leg. He fell forward, sliding dangerously toward the rushing water. The huntress leaped, claws aimed to push him in. He rolled just in time, barely avoiding her deadly strike. Pain shot through his shoulder as he slammed into a rock, but he did not stop. The forest itself seemed to shift, roots and rocks forming new obstacles. The human knew he had to act quickly. One mistake could end everything. He spotted a glowing pool ahead. Smaller than the sacred death pool, it shimmered oddly, almost inviting him. But he sensed another trap, careful and precise. He approached, stepping lightly on hidden stones. The huntress circled above, hissing softly, testing his resolve. She was relentless, but he had learned a few tricks. A sudden movement in the water caught her attention. He dived into the glowing pool, hiding briefly beneath the shimmering surface. The water swirled around him, masking his presence. Giving him a brief advantage, the huntress hissed in frustration. Realizing he had evaded her again, her glowing eyes scanned the edges of the pool. Calculating her next move, the human held his breath, heart pounding, every sense alert. He could feel the water respond, currents shifting as if alive. The forest seemed to pause, holding its breath as predator and prey faced off. Suddenly, debris in the water revealed another trap. Jagged rocks rising just below the surface. The human kicked violently, propelling himself forward, barely avoiding injury. He emerged from the water onto a narrow path. Soaked and exhausted, branches whipped him in the face. Roots tried to snag his feet, but he kept moving, knowing that stopping meant certain death. Above, the huntress's fury grew, her patience waning. She had underestimated his determination, but she would not fail. The human glanced back briefly, seeing her glowing eyes reflect in the water. Every instinct screamed that the next move could be his last. And yet he pressed forward, daring, clever. determined to survive the deadly chase. The forest seemed to whisper secrets to him, guiding him through hidden paths. He leapt over a fallen tree, ducked under a low branch. Every move was calculated, yet risky. The huntress followed relentlessly, silent and deadly, and the human knew that the sacred death pool's edge was near. The next challenge, greater than ever, the human emerged from the final stretch of forest. Dripping and exhausted, before him lay the sacred death pool. Vast, glowing and ominous, the water shimmered unnaturally, light twisting across the surface. Every instinct screamed that this was no ordinary pool. The legends had warned of its dangers, its power and its secrets. Above, the alien huntress crouched on a massive rock, her eyes glowing fiercely. She had followed him relentlessly, patient, calculating, unstoppable. Every near escape only fueled her determination. Every clever move sharpened her strategy. The forest itself seemed to watch, anticipating the deadly encounter about to unfold. Branches creaked, leaves whispered, and small creatures scattered in anticipation. The human stepped closer to the edge, heart pounding, muscles trembling. The pool stretched endlessly, its waters pulsing as if alive. He could sense hidden currents beneath the surface, unseen forces waiting. A cold wind blew across the water, carrying whispers he could not understand, and somewhere deep in the pool, a strange glow hinted at secrets or danger. The huntress moved closer, silent and deadly, every step precise. Her claws scraped against the rocks, faint but threatening. She hissed softly, eyes locked on her prey. The human sensed her presence, but he had no choice but to advance. Turning back would only give her advantage, and he could not allow that. Suddenly, a series of glowing pillars emerged from the pool. They formed a narrow path across the water. Unstable but passable, the human's eyes widened. Realizing this was his only way forward, every step on the slippery pillars sent ripples across the water, and each ripple was a signal to the huntress. A warning of movement. He stepped carefully, balancing on the first pillar. The water below swirled with strange energy, tugging at his feet. A sharp spike of rock jutted just beneath the surface. A deadly trap. The huntress crouched, waiting for him to falter. Every second stretched. Tension thickening in the glowing air, the human advanced, testing each pillar before committing his weight. Suddenly, the pillar beneath him shifted. Tilting dangerously, he leaped, barely catching the next, heart hammering in his chest. The huntress hissed in frustration, her patience thinning. She would have him fall. She was certain of it. A shadow moved beneath the water. Unseen but felt, the currents tugged harder. Pulling him toward hidden rocks, he twisted, kicking violently to stay upright. The huntress lunged, claws cutting through the air. He rolled forward, narrowly avoiding her strike. The glowing water seemed to react, pulsing faster, swirling around him. The human realized it was alive, aware of his every move, every ripple, every splash. Sent signals across the pool. He had to move quickly, outsmarting both the huntress and the pool itself. One wrong step would mean instant death. Suddenly, a series of glowing tendrils shot up from the water. They wrapped around his ankles, pulling him down. He kicked violently. Freeing himself just in time, the huntress leaped again, aiming to force him into the deadly currents. He rolled across a pillar, heart racing, lungs burning. The human spotted a narrow rock ledge ahead, barely wide enough to stand. It was his only chance to escape the water's pull. He sprinted, jumping from pillar to pillar, dodging tendrils and spikes. The huntress followed relentlessly, claws aimed to strike. The forest around them seemed to hold its breath. Waiting for the final moment, he reached the ledge, pulling himself out of the water, gasping, shivering, bruised, but alive. The huntress landed beside him, silent, deadly, a shadow among the rocks. Her glowing eyes reflected fury, frustration, and admiration for the first time. She realized this human was not easily broken. The human knew the pool was only a part of the danger. The huntress had more tricks, more traps, more tests. Every instinct screamed that the final confrontation was near. He clenched his fists, readying himself. The sacred death pool shimmered behind them, a warning of the peril still to come. Suddenly, the huntress lunged. Claws flashing, the human dodged, rolling across the rock. Water splashed violently around them, echoes of the pool's energy surging. Every move was critical. Every breath a gamble. The forest, the pool, the huntress all seemed to merge into one deadly force. The human leaped, narrowly avoiding another strike. He realized survival meant outthinking, outmaneuvering, and trusting his instincts. The huntress hissed, circling, calculating her next attack. The sacred death pool pulsed behind them, a living trap waiting to claim him. And the human knew that the final test, the ultimate confrontation, was about to begin. The human stood on the narrow rock ledge, water from the sacred death pool splashing at his feet. His muscles ached, his lungs burned, but determination surged through him. The huntress crouched opposite, glowing eyes locked on him. Silent, deadly, calculating every move. The forest seemed to hold its breath, the wind still, the trees frozen. Even the pool's pulsing energy paused. As if anticipating the final moment, the huntress hissed softly, her claws scraping against the rock she had tracked, tested, and cornered him, yet he still stood, defiant and alive. Every instinct told him she could kill him with a single strike, but he had learned the forest's secrets, the pool's dangers, and his own strengths. He would not give up, not now, not ever. Suddenly, she lunged. Faster than the human could anticipate, he twisted, dodging, feeling the rush of air as her claws cut through the space he had occupied. The water surged violently, pulsing around them, responding to their movements. Each ripple a potential trap, each splash a warning. The human knew he had to act fast, or the huntress would end it here. He leaped to the nearest pillar, balancing carefully as the water below churned. The huntress followed, claws scraping the stone. Eyes blazing, he glanced around. Spotting loose rocks above the pool, an idea struck him, risky but potentially deadly to his pursuer. He grabbed a handful and threw them into the water, creating a cascade of chaos. The huntress hissed in frustration, her attention momentarily distracted by the tumbling rocks. The currents shifted violently, pulling her slightly off balance. The human seized the moment, sprinting across the pillars toward the far edge. His heart pounded, every breath heavy with fear and determination. He could feel the huntress regaining focus, closing the distance again. Suddenly, the forest itself seemed to intervene, branches twisting to block her path, roots shot up from the